matter that we have to talk about is the difference between a physical change and a chemical change. So, a physical change is a change that does not involve a change in the identity of a substance. So, molecules are remaining the same. Some examples of this are state changes and motion. So let's talk about state changes. We learned about the different states of matter, liquid, solid, gas. If we take water, for instance, we have H2O when it's liquid, right? Now, if I heat it up, it's now going to become a gas. We know the difference between a liquid and gas is that the gas molecules are moving faster. But what is not going to change is that it's still going to be H2O. Our actual compound is not changing at all. Same thing if we were to go down to a solid. H2O particles, they're moving slower, really not moving at all, but the actual molecule is not changing. So this can be true if we are breaking something. So if we took a piece of wood and broke it in half, it's still wood, but it's now just looks a little bit different. Cutting something, those are all going to be physical changes. A chemical change is a change that alters the identity of the substance. Once you perform a chemical change, you can never get your original substance back. So the molecules are actually changing, they're no longer the same. So here, if I were to again have water, if it were to go under a chemical change, maybe our hydrogens and our oxygens are going to separate. So now I have hydrogen and oxygen, but it's no longer water because they're two separate compounds now. Now, when we're talking about chemical changes, there can be different proofs in order to prove that we have a chemical change. The first one is production of a gas. If you see gas, so you can usually see gas when something is bubbling, or if you smell a different odor, that is going to be an indication that a chemical change occurred. Precipitate formation. A precipitate is just a solid that is formed from a chemical reaction. So we're going to do a few examples of this in class, but a precipitate is when you mix two liquids together and a solid comes out of solution and you'll see a solid on the bottom of the beaker. Energy released or absorbed. Whenever a chemical reaction happens, energy is either taken in or given off. So we could record a change in temperature of the actual chemicals, or sometimes if energy is given off, we can see a light. Lastly, there can be a change in color. That usually pairs up with precipitate, because the precipitate that we form will usually be a different color than the two chemicals that were added together. We have to be careful with changing color because there's a difference between diluting something and actually forming a new chemical. For changing color, we're looking for a dramatic color change. For diluting something, that is going to be a physical change, and that is going to be, you're going to start off with a brighter color. You're going to add water to it. Just because you're adding water doesn't mean the molecules are changing. You're just making the concentration of something a little bit less.